We're discussing the chapter 8 and 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamanine Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajanghraye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Maha Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatra Dharana Para Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. This session, we'd like to thank our participants for yesterday's quiz. We had wonderful participation yesterday. Thank you for doing this, and please continue to participate like this. On YouTube, we'd like to thank Geeta Varadarajan Mataji, Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu, Barsana Chitra Mataji, Rekha Mataji, and Hari Krishna Mardali Prabhu. On Facebook, we'd like to thank Ranjani Gopika Mataji. Thank you so much for participating. We go to Canto 12, Chapter 8 and 9, starting with Chapter 8, Markandeya's prayers to Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi. In this chapter, it's wonderfully described how Markandeya Rishi, he performed so many austerities. He defeated Cupid and all his associates by his own potency, and then how he offered prayers to Lord Hari in the form of Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishis. So texts 2 to 5 say that Shaunaka Rishi, now the scene is set. Maharaj Parikshit left the assembly. Shukadev Goswami is no longer speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. Shukadev Goswami trained Maharaj Parikshit. And then at the time of death, when the Takshak snake bird arrived, Maharaj Parikshit was perfectly trained. He knew exactly what to do. He focused his mind and his being into the pastimes of the Lord at the time of death. That is the goal of the Guru. The goal of the Guru is not to micromanage the disciple in one sense. The role of a guru, a mentor, a coach is to help the disciple learn how to fly the plane, but also explain to him in the end, you have to fly it on your own. Some people think, oh, in order to do something, I have to go and call my guru and ask my guru, should I turn left? I'm driving on the street. Should I turn right? Should I turn left? Every moment I have to ask my guru. Unless my guru tells me, I will not do anything. But it's the guru's responsibility that he confirms and affirms to the disciple that, look, my duty is not to tell you exactly what to do in every moment of your life, but my duty is to train you so that you can take your own decisions in a Krishna conscious manner. That's my goal. When situations happen, you should be trained to know whether to turn right or turn left. I will give you those indications. If it's an extremely urgent situation, I will come and guide you in that as well, if it's confusing too much. But otherwise, on a day-to-day level, I will train you so you can take your own decisions yourself. That's what Shukadeva Goswami did. He was not there when Maharaj Parikshit was being bitten by the Takshak snake purr. He was not there. He said, I have trained you. Now it's up to you to do what you will do at the time of death. That is the goal of the disciple. One time a guru told his disciple, don't hurt animals. We should not hurt animals because God is in every living being. So just don't hurt animals. And so the disciple went, my guru has said I should not hurt any animals. So he went and he saw an elephant. And he went to the Mahavat, the ward of the elephant. And as he went near, the elephant kicked him. And this disciple was so disappointed. All his faith in God went away. He was in the hospital. He was thinking, why did the guru say God is in every living being? If God is in every living being, then God must be in the elephant as well. And if God is in the elephant, why did God kick me? How can God kick me like this? And so he went to his guru and told him, how you said God is everywhere, God is in everything. I went to the elephant thinking that he is God. And he kicked me, God kicked me. But you said God is very merciful. Is this your merciful God? The guru said, well, it is true. God is in every living being. But did you not hear the Mahavat, the ward of the elephant, telling you, don't come near, don't come near? God was telling you through him as well. Why did you not follow him? So we should know that everything happens by God's mercy, but we should listen, we should be trained. The guru trains us on specific situations, how to interpret, how to see the God's hand in everything, his merciful hand in every situation, in every person, in every living thing, in every non-living thing. That is how the guru trains us, and that's how guru trained Maharaj Parikshit. And now, back to Sutta Goswami and the Shaunak Rishi and all these sages of Naimisharanya. Shaunak Rishi, who is the person who asks the questions on behalf of the sages of Naimisharanya, he asked a very simple question to Sutta Goswami because they all understood now Srimad Bhagavatam is going to come to an end. The narration of Sutta Goswami is going to come to an end. And so he said, let us ask all the questions that we had in our mind. And Shaunak Rishi raises his hands. I have a question. I have had a question for a very, very long time. Text 2 to 5. Shaunak Rishi says, authorities say that Markandeya Rishi, the son of Mrikandu, He was an exceptionally long-lived sage. He was the only survivor at the end of Brahma's day. If you recall, 2 chapters before, we had discussed the end of Brahma's day. There is a partial annihilation, and all the souls go back to sleep. But Markandeya Rishi, he was the only survivor at the end of the day, before the night began, at the time of Pralaya. The entire universe was merged in the flood of annihilation. But the same Markandeya Rishi, who is one of the ascendants of Bhrigu Muni, who actually ascertained who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this Markandeya Rishi, the descendant of Bhrigu, he took birth in my own family. Shaunak Rishi is saying, he is my ancestor. He took birth in this day of Brahma, in this kalpa. We are in the 7th manvantra of this kalpa. And we have not yet seen total annihilation in this day of Brahma. So how is it that Markandeya Rishi went through this annihilation? And it is also well known that when Markandeya Rishi was helplessly wandering in this ocean of annihilation, he saw in these fearful waters of waves going back and forth, and he being just tossed and turned around the waves. Just within that, he had the darshan of a beautiful infant boy lying alone within the fold of a banyan leaf, the leaf of a banyan tree, which is so huge. O Sutta Goswami, I am most bewildered and I'm curious to know about this sage Markandeya Rishi. You are known as the authority on all these Puranas. Please dispel my confusion. Just like Arjuna told Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that please, I am your soul surrendered unto you. Please dispel my confusion. Then Sutta Goswami says that, very good question. Markandeya Rishi, he was being completely purified by his father's performance of yajna. Who was his father? Mrikandu. Mrikandu's son, Markandeya. After being purified because of his father's performance rituals, which means Mrikandu did all the samskaras. There are so many samskaras leading to a human birth, before a human birth, during the pregnancy, and after birth. There is the Garbhadhan samskara, which is supposed to be performed. And then after that, when the name-giving ceremony is there, and then the Annaprashan ceremony is there, then the first hair Mundan ceremony is there, all these different ceremonies. So here it's saying that Mrikandu performed all these rituals for Markandeya Rishi, which instilled in Markandeya Rishi such devotional qualities and removed all the obstacles in human form of life. And as a result, Markandeya, he achieved Brahmanical initiation, the ceremony, the samskara, which is called as the Upanayana samskara. And then Markandeya Rishi studied the Vedic hymns. He very strictly observed the regulative principles, became so advanced in austerity and Vedic knowledge. And he decided to become a lifelong celibate. And he would perform his austerity in such a peaceful manner. He would appear so peaceful. He had matted hair. His clothing was made of the bark of the trees. And he was carrying the water pot staff, the kamandalu staff, sacred thread, the brahmachari belt, which is the kopin, the loincloth, black deer skin, lotus seed prayer beads, just like we have the prayer beads made up of tulasi and Lord Shiva's devotees. They make it out of Rudraksha. He had lotus seed prayer beads. So these are also valid, Markandeya Rishi. And bundles of kusha grass, very auspicious. As a result of this, he furthered his spiritual progress. It says, because he carried the kamandalu, the staff, the sacred thread, the brahmachari belt, the black deer skin, the lotus seed prayer beads, and bundles of kusha grass, he furthered his spiritual progress. And then he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 5 forms. What were the 5 forms? Fire, sun, guru, brahmanas, and the super soul within his heart. He worshipped these 5. The sacrificial fire, the sun, the spiritual master, the brahmanas, and the super soul within his heart. Morning and evening, he would go out begging. And then, upon returning, he would present all that he got, all the food. He would not eat himself. He would give it to his spiritual master. And then, when his spiritual master would invite him, then he would silently take 1 meal of the day. Otherwise, he would fast. This is the way to lead. Brahmachari gurukule vasandanto gurur hitam. Brahmachari, he lives in the gurukul of his spiritual master for what? Gurur hitam, for the pleasure of the guru, for the sake of fulfilling the mission of the guru, for the benefit of the guru, of the spiritual master. He would eat once a day and silently take his 1 meal. Silently meaning when he would eat, he would not speak to anyone. With a grateful attitude, he would accept the prasad that was given to that was Krishna's prasad and given to his spiritual master. So when we eat, we should see Srila Prabhupada as well. Whenever we see some of his photographs and videos of eating, he would always be quiet. He would be he may listen. He would be listening to many queries of his devotees, but hardly he would speak and answer. He would just say, And then once his prasad honoring would be over, then he would speak. So we should honor prasad silently. Not while watching TV. While watching TV, if we silently take prasad, that is also speaking. Because in our mind, we are being distracted. We are speaking so many things, judging so many things while we are watching TV, going through so many emotions. We may be silent externally, but internally there is so much of emotion and distraction from the act of being grateful for the prasad. The prasad, when we are honoring, we have to accept it in a eager and grateful manner. Then it will actually go and nourish the body and nourish the soul. Otherwise, it'll have minimal effect. It will have some effect. Prasad will have effect. Prasad is prasad. It will purify, but very minimally. Just like when we have the sun is coming in. If we close the doors and windows of our house, the sun will still seep through somehow, the sunlight, but very minimal. The sunlight is the mercy of the Lord. And closing the doors and windows is like being distracted while honoring prasad. Prasad means mercy. It'll act minimally, but if we open the doors and windows of our house, the sunlight will just come in and illuminate the whole house. Similarly, we should allow the prasad to illuminate our soul, illuminate our entire body, nourish it. One time, near the Pushkarini lake, some of the disciples of Ramanujacharya in Sri Rangam, he was walking, and in the middle of the courtyard of the Sri Rangam temple is a lake called the Pushkarini lake. And there were so many fishes. And Sri Ramanujacharya was going with a plate of Mahaprasad of Sri Ranganath. Along with him, few of his very intimate sannyasi disciples were with him. And then Sri Ramanujacharya took some Mahaprasad and threw in the lake. There were some fishes. These fishes, few fishes, came and started honoring the prasad. Push! right in front of the eyes of these disciples. These fishes transformed into the form, four-handed form of Vishnu, and right there, from the courtyard of Sri Rangam temple, they ascended to the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha. All the disciples were shocked. What just happened? What did we see? They begged to Ramanujacharya, please explain what just happened. What did you do? He said, Ramanujacharya said, I just gave some Mahaprasad. I felt that they were very eager. I gave some Mahaprasad to them, to the fishes. The sannyasi said, we also accept Mahaprasad. The disciples said, we accept Mahaprasad, the same Mahaprasad that you gave to the fish. We don't get transformed right away, and why don't we go to Vaikuntha? Is there something that you added in the prasad? Ramanujacharya said, no. It is the same Mahaprasad the fishes honored that you would honor. But they honored without any offenses, with so much eagerness and gratefulness, because they accepted the Mahaprasad with eagerness. And they were grateful for that Mahaprasad, and there was no other emotion to ascertain to that. In one sense, they were truly silently accepting the Mahaprasad. It had its effect, and they were transformed and went to Vaikuntha right away. So we should follow the example of Markandeya Rishi, of Srila Prabhupada, and all our previous acharyas. Only when his spiritual master invited him would he take silently one meal of the day, otherwise he would fast. It's good to have one meal a day only, as a dietary restriction as well. At least grain prasad once a day. Thus, devoted to austerity and Vedic study, Markandeya Rishi worshipped the Supreme Master of the senses, the personality of Godhead, for countless of millions of years. And in this way, he conquered the unconquerable death. This is the verdict of Sutta Goswami. Oh, Markandeya Rishi, I know about Markandeya Rishi. I know about your ascendant. Then Sutta Goswami continues explaining to Shaunaka Rishi. In this way, Markandeya Rishi maintained rigid celibacy, penance, study of the Vedas, self-discipline, and thus his mind was free of all disturbances. He turned it inward and he meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, when he was meditating, 6 lifetimes of Manus passed by, 6 Manvantras passed by. This was in the first Manvantara, in the day of Brahma, of the current Brahma. And then 6 lifetimes of Manu passed by. In the 7th Manvantara, Lord Indra, he sent Kamadev and his associates to interrupt the austerities of the sages. Because Indra was like, whoa, this person is becoming really powerful. Does he want my position? So then Indra said, Cupid, along with associates of beautiful celestial dancers, some dancing girls, Spree, Vasant Ritu, the season of the spring, sandalwood scented breeze from the Malaya hills. This was the same place from where the Madhavendra Puri had gone to get the sandalwood for Gopal. And then Cupid, along with all these things, he also sent his sons, greed and intoxication personified. Because greed and intoxication fires lust. Then Cupid, not only that, Cupid came himself holding his bow and arrows. And then he came along with Gandharvas and musical instruments and singing. And then they came to the hermitage of Markandeya Rishi in the north of the Himalayas. This is all happening in the Himalayas. He had an ashram. There were devotees there, his disciples. And then these servants of Indra, they found the sage in meditation. And because he had just put oblations into the sacrificial fire, because he would worship the sun, the fire, the super soul, all these 5 different things. So he had just worshipped the fire. His eyes was closed in trance. He seemed like fire personified, like completely invisible. But the woman, all the apsaras, they started dancing before the sage. And all this celestial singers, they started singing to the charming, all this accompaniment of the drums, the cymbals, venas, and such nice. And then the son of passion, greed personified, Spring and all the other servants of Indra, they all tried to, they agitated Markandeya's mind. And Cupid then drew his 5-headed arrow and fixed upon his bow. He was waiting at the right time to give his bow. And then the Apsara, made a show of playing with so many different toy balls. And that was the right moment when Cupid said, now I should conquer the sage. He shot his arrow, but all these attempts to seduce Markandeya Rishi did not work. They were just futile. And then Cupid and his followers, they tried to harm the sage. But when they were trying to harm, they felt themselves being burnt alive by his potency. So they stopped their mischief, and they felt fearful, just like children who have aroused a sleeping snake. Sometimes a snake is sleeping and the children try to tow along with it and try to beat it with stick. And then when it comes up and raises its hood, that's when they get burned. They get really scared. So one time Narad Muni had a disciple who was a snake. This disciple himself was actually a snake. But before he became his disciple, he was a very, very ferocious snake. Very ferocious. And he would say, he would bite everyone without any cause. Very envious. All the villagers were afraid of even coming out because of his fear. Then one time Narad Muni came there and he learned about the snake. He went, I will approach the snake. And he transformed the snake's heart and told him, and the snake became his disciple. Narad Muni said, I have one instruction for you. Do not bite anyone. And the snake said, yes, Guru Maharaj, I will not bite anyone. And Narad Muni left. The sage did not bite. After some months, Narad Muni came back. And as he came back, he was told, he said, where is the snake? And some of the villagers said, look there. And there were so many children and people surrounding. And then in the middle was the snake. And the snake was being beaten by sticks. Excuse me. And he was being, blood was coming out. All of these different things that was going on. And Narad Muni felt so much compassion on that snake. He let the people go away, and then he came to the snake. What happened, my dear disciple? What happened? And the snake was just very, very morose and just, lying down, being beaten and blood coming out. And he said, my Guru Maharaj, I'm just trying to follow your instruction. You told me not to bite anyone. So therefore, after you left, all these villagers, when they came to know that I would not bite, they started beating me with sticks. The children would come and they would poke me. And I would not bite, so I would not do anything. So Narad Muni said, I told you not to bite, but you could always raise your hood just to defend yourself. You don't have to bite, but just the fact that you raise your hood, people would not abuse you this way. So in the same way, as a Vaishnava, we generally try, if some allegations or accusations are there, generally we try to not defend ourselves. We just accept it as Krishna's mercy and try to, just like Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, rather than dealing with the external situation, they tried to change themselves internally. So the devotees, we just accept the external situation. Rather than changing the external situation, we try to change ourselves internally to deal with that situation and be grateful. Try to learn, understand, what can I learn from this situation? Every situation in this life, for a devotee, for a non-devotee, is Krishna is wanting us to learn something. And we have to always be vigilant. What Krishna wants me to learn? So we don't really defend ourselves generally as practicing Vaishnavas. But Narad Muni says you can raise your hood so people don't abuse you. In the same way, here it says, when the Cupid and his followers tried to harm the sage, they themselves felt burnt by his potency, alive by his potency. And this is the example that Sutta Goswami gives, is then they stop their mischief, just like children who have aroused a sleeping snake, and the snake has risen the hood and the children get afraid. Then text 30, it says that even though the followers of Lord Indra had attacked Markandeya, he did not succumb to any influence of false ego. Such tolerance is not surprising for the great souls. So this is how we can not succumb to these lusty thoughts and desires. Is the root cause is false ego. Root cause is thinking I'm the body, and therefore anything that's enjoyable for the body is enjoyable for me. But Markandeya Rishi was very much above that. And Indra, he was astonished. What? Markandeya? He burnt Cupid and his associates? He made them powerless? How can this happen? But then Lord Nara-Nārāyaṇa were very pleased. Krishna was very pleased. So text 32, desiring to bestow his mercy upon the saintly Markandeya, who perfectly fixed his mind in self-realization through penance, Vedic study, and observance of regular principles, the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally appeared before the sage in the form of Nara and Narayan. And very wonderfully it's described. One of them was of a whitish complexion and the other blackish. We know who was blackish and who was whitish. The blackish was Narayan and whitish was Nara. This was Arjuna and Krishna. And they both had 4 arms, Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi. Their eyes, they resembled the petals of blooming lotuses. And they wore such wonderful garments of black deer skin and bark. They had sacred thread, 3-stranded sacred threads. And in their hands, they carried, again, the kamandalu, bamboo staff, and lotus seed prayer beads. Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi also, everywhere in Bhagavatam, it's lotus seed prayer beads. And we have either neem beads or tulasi beads. But Bhagavatam also says lotus seed prayer beads. And then they also had in their hand the Vedas in the symbolic form of bundles of darbha grass. So there is kusha grass. But if you have darbha grass, these are symbols of the Vedas. And they were very tall. Their effulgence was yellow in color. Radiant lightning. They were appearing as austerities personified. And around them, they were being worshipped by the foremost demigods, devatas. These two Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishis, they were direct personal forms of the Lord. And when Markandeya Rishi saw them, He immediately stood up with great respect, offered them obeisances, falling down like a stick, Dandavat Pranam. And then, when they saw the ecstasy of seeing them completely satisfied, Markandeya Rishi's body, his mind, his senses were completely satisfied, and his hairs were standing on end. His eyes was filled with tears. These are symptoms of pure love of God, Ashtavikar, of Shuddha Prema. And Markandeya Rishi, his eyes were filled with so much tears that he was even having difficulty looking at them. And so he was just standing, his eyes in tears, his hair standing on end, his folded hands, and his head was bowed in humility. And Markandeya Rishi felt that he wanted to embrace the Lord, but he could not embrace the Lord. So in his mind, he imagined that he was embracing the two Lords. So this is a valid thing. If we cannot embrace the Lord, we can imagine that we are embracing the Lord. Lord Jagannath is so merciful that on the Rath Yatra day, he's the only deity who comes out. There are many deities who come out, but they come out, their Utsav Murtis come out during the Brahmotsava. Not the original deity, but Jagannath, his original self in the deity form, comes out, Daru Brahma. Self-same form. He's the only deity. And not only that, not only does he give darshan to everyone, he allows devotees to embrace him. But if we cannot embrace many of the deities, we can embrace in our mind. And a voice which was choked with ecstasy, Markandeya Rishi said, I offer my humble obeisances to you, my Lord. And then he gave him sitting places. He washed their lotus feet. He worshipped them. He gave them arghya, sandalwood pulp, fragrant oils. He did arti, actually, incense and flower garlands. He performed arti for them when they came. And then he said, my Lord, you bring to life all this vital air of all the creatures. You also protect the three worlds. You vanquish the distress of everyone. You award them liberation. You never allow those who have taken shelter to be defeated by any kind of miseries. See, you never allow those who have taken shelter of you to be defeated by any kind of misery. Attaining your lotus feet is the only auspicious goal for conditioned souls. Therefore, those who are intelligent worship your personal form of pure goodness, named Sri Narayan, along with Nara, who represents your unalloyed devotee. Nara is Arjuna, the unalloyed devotee. But he said the living entity, he's bewildered by illusion. And so they can directly understand you only if the living entity receives the knowledge presented in the Vedas, which is given by you directly or by the spiritual master of the entire universe. Even Brahma is bewildered when they try to understand your identity. Therefore, I offer my homage to you. You are the Mahapurusha. So this way he ends the 8th chapter. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that these so-called, he said that Brahma are simply bewildered. Great thinkers like Brahma are bewildered when they try to understand your identity by struggling on the path of Sankhya Yoga. So there are many yogis, not just Sankhya Yoga, but even they have mystic potency. The Dhyana yogis. They also sometimes give so many feats. They show so many different kinds of feats to impress the followers. So one man, Srila Prabhupada said, he himself told this story in one of his lectures. He said one man, he went out of the village, and after 10 years he came back, and then he advertised, I have become successful in yoga practice. So naturally all villagers surrounded him. Yeah, we didn't see him for 10 years. You have? Okay, what yoga practice you have learned? He said, I can walk on the water. Everyone was, oh, you can walk the water? In fact, many people, if now someone says I can walk on water, people will come. So everything was there. There was arrangement. He'll cross the river walking on the water. And one old man, he said, sir, it's good that you are walking on water, but you know what? Your walking on water is just worth 2 paisa. According to, at that time, 2 paisa. He said, the yogi was, what? Prabhupada said, the yogi was bewildered. What do you mean? He was insulted. I'm walking on water. No one can do that. And you're telling it's worth 2 paisa? Why? So the old man said, well, now you will walk and go to the other side. But I can do the same thing. I'll take the boat, give the boatman 2 paisa, and I'll go to the other side. What is your credit? Ultimately, falena parichayate. I want to go to the other side, I can go. You can go walking. I have to just give 2 paisa. So your walking is worth 2 paisa. So we should not be completely enamored by this phantasmagoria of people trying to impress us by the yogic feats. Next we go to Markandeya Rishi, sees the illusory potency of the Lord, chapter 9. So we know that he was having the darshan of Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishis. He was praying to Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi. And he continues. As he was praying, Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishis, they respond. They say, Vayam te paritushtasma tvad brihad vratacharyaya varam praticha bhadram te varadosmi tvadipsitam. We are perfectly satisfied with your practice of lifelong celibacy. Please choose whatever benediction you desire, since I can grant your wish. May you enjoy all good fortune. Now here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Lord uses the plural form in the beginning and the singular form in the end. He says, we are perfectly satisfied with your practice of lifelong celibacy. Please choose whatever benediction you desire, since I can grant your wish. So they said, why did they use vayam, we, initially, and then excuse me, and then asmi, I will give you later. Why did he say that? Because when he said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when he said we are satisfied, he was referring to himself along with Lord Shiva and Uma and all of that, who will later be glorified by Markandeya Rishi also in the next chapter. But then he used the singular, I am the bestower of benedictions, asmi, because ultimately only Lord Narayan, Krishna, can award the highest benediction of life, eternal Krishna consciousness. So this is a very important point. And then he said, Markandeya Rishi asks his benediction. He asks, Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi asked, I will give you the benediction. But Markandeya Rishi says, Lord Brahma and all these devatas, they have achieved your exalted position just by seeing your beautiful lotus feet. And they've become mature in yoga practice. But now, I am so grateful that you have personally appeared before me. Not just just by seeing your lotus feet, they attain perfection. Now I'm not only able to see your lotus feet, but everything else. You are so merciful to me. I don't deserve it. And that's how you start asking benediction. If you want to start asking benediction, be grateful for what Krishna has given us now. When Krishna is pleased with how we are taking care of things that he has gifted to us right now, then he will consider giving us more if he's pleased. So we should always express our gratefulness. Here, Markandeya Rishi is doing exactly that. He's not directly going, oh, yeah, you asked me benediction, here is my benediction. I don't have this, give me this. No, he said, look, I'm already grateful what you have given me. Something which even Brahma doesn't have. So this is very instructive, how we should be eager and grateful. Then Krishna gives his reveals himself to us. Prabhupada gives another wonderful story that one time there was a public recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam going on, and this reciter was describing Krishna as very highly decorated with all kinds of jewels. He was describing Krishna. And he says, when he goes to tend the cows in the forest, there are all kinds of jewels on this little boy, Krishna, baby Krishna. Now in that meeting, suddenly a thief appeared. And this thief, he thought, there are so many people here, let me try to rob something from them. But steal something from them. But he heard, oh, there's this little boy, Krishna, and he goes to the forest, herding all the calves. And he goes to this forest and he's laden with all jewels when he goes there. Who's this boy? Well, where does he live again? So he heard a little more. He said, he's in Vrindavan. Oh, let me go to Vrindavan and then I can plunder this boy. He's in the forest, so many jewels. I can go there. He's just a small boy. I'll just catch the child, take all the jewels, then he can go. I must find the boy. He became very serious. More and more he heard about the boy. He became more and more eager. And he thought, one night, I just need one night to catch this boy and I'll become a millionaire. And so then he said, my dear sir, at the lecture, he says, where can I find this boy? He said, oh, you go to Vrindavan and you go to the forest, and if you just say, Gopal, Gopal, Krishna, he'll come. So he said, okay, he immediately left. I must see Krishna. So that anxiety and eagerness, he went there. And then he started going to the forest. He went to the forest in Vrindavan. He said, Krishna, Krishna, Gopal. He was going in the forest, just like the 6 Goswamis. He Radhe Vraj Devi ke chalalite, he Nanda Suno Kota. He is saying, where are you, Krishna, Krishna? And he's so eager, he's anxious. Because of his eagerness and anxiety, Krishna reciprocated. He appeared in the form that this thief was wanting to come. And the thief said, oh, he saw Gopal Krishna. He was stunned. Krishna, this is the same boy. I need to be very careful. And he started flattering Krishna. He started glorifying Krishna. Oh, nice boy, Krishna. You have such nice jewels. Where's your mother? Your mother has dressed you so nicely. And he started from his lotus feet all the way up to his peacock feather. He started glorifying Krishna. It was exactly how we glorify Krishna when we have the darshan of the Lord. Then he said, if you don't mind, I'm very poor. Can I take some of these ornaments? You're so rich. And so Krishna said, no. My mother will be very angry. I cannot give them away. Krishna was playing just like a child. And that made the thief more and more eager for Krishna to give the jewels. But by association of Krishna, he was getting slowly purified. And he started glorifying Krishna in so many different ways. And then suddenly he would say, now can I take it? No, I cannot give you my mother. And then he starts telling his father. That made the thief more eager. And as he was getting eager and glorifying Krishna, he was getting purified. At the end, Krishna said, all right, you can take them. But by then, the thief had become a devotee. Because of Krishna's association, he had been completely purified. So Prabhupada said, somehow or other, we should come in contact with Krishna, and then we'll be purified. If we are eager in that way. So then the Supreme Lord asked him benedictions, and again he glorified the Lord. He was grateful, and then he said, I want to see your illusory energy. He was just curious. So far he had defied and defeated the illusory energy of the Lord, but he said, I want to see your illusory energy, my dear Lord. That was his desire. So Nara-Nārāyaṇa said, so be it, and left for Badrikashram. Then thinking always of this desire to see the Lord's illusory energy. The sage, Markandeya Rishi, remained in his ashram. He was patient. He wasn't asking, oh, you told me, so be it. When will I see? When will I see? Krishna, Krishna, when will I see? When will I see? Be patient. He was thinking always of his desire to see the illusory energy. He was remembering, but he was patient. Krishna has said, so be it. It will happen. I have faith. But the sage, he was meditating constantly upon the Lord. He continued his sadhana. And then within the fire, the sun, moon, water, earth, air, he was lightening his own heart. He was worshipping Krishna with the paraphernalia that he conceived in his mind. He didn't have anything material. In his mind, he started, or physical. In his mind, he started conceiving all these ways in which he would perform his worship. But sometimes, Bhagavatam says, he would forget to perform his regular worship. Before he received the benediction, Markandeya Rishi was very regular. Now, after he received the benediction, now he has become slackened. Why would Markandeya Rishi forget to perform his regular worship? Why does Bhagavatam say that? Not because he became slackened, but because sometimes he was overwhelmed by the waves of love of the Lord. And because he was overwhelmed, he just could not perform his regular worship, because he was already worshiping the Lord with his soul, the emotional love of God. So then one day, as Markandeya Rishi, he was offering his evening prayers. Suddenly the water of devastation, it flooded the three worlds. And then Markandeya Rishi, he moved about all alone in this water. Long time. This is just the ocean with its waves coming back and forth. Very dangerous. He was being here and there. And then Markandeya Rishi, he was moving around in the water. And suddenly he had a beautiful darshan of an infant boy, Krishna, laying upon the leaf of the banyan tree. He was glowing with a charming effulgence, and Markandeya Rishi moved towards the leaf. And he felt he was being pulled. He was being sucked in by the inhalation of the boy. When the little boy, baby Krishna, inhaled, Markandeya Rishi was attracted, was just moved toward the leaf. The example is given just like a mosquito drawn within, just like a mosquito, he was being pulled. The mosquitoes are actually attracted by the smell, by our breath, actually. So anyway, and then Markandeya Rishi went inside the boy's body. He was being pulled inside the boy's body. And Markandeya Rishi, inside the body, he was amazed. He saw the entire universe just as it was before the annihilation. And after a moment, again, he was pushed out by the exhalation of the boy. But in that moment, he had the full darshan of the illusory energy of the Lord. And it seemed like millenniums, that one moment inside the body of the Lord, he felt like 1 millennium. And he again was hurled back into the ocean of annihilation. Then he understood, this child, he on the leaf is none other than Sri Hari, who is the transcendental Lord situated within my own heart. And Sri Markandeya Rishi, he was overwhelmed with devotional ecstasy, and he tried to embrace the little child, so cute, so wonderful. But then the child disappeared. Hari, the master of all mystic powers. And then the waters of annihilation disappeared as well. And Markandeya Rishi again found himself in his own ashram, just as before. This is the power of the Lord. When we are going through trials and tribulations, it seems like we are in this ocean, alone, all alone, being tossed and turned, and it seems so worst. But then if we try to find the Lord in that distressful situation, he will appear. We find the Lord by chanting his holy names. We try to find the Lord by hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Upadeshamrita. Then Krishna will reveal, and then reveal himself, and suddenly everything will disappear. Just like all this annihilation, ocean annihilation disappeared, and Markandeya Rishi was back in his own ashram just as before. What happened next to Markandeya Rishi? This will continue in our subsequent chapters when it is described how Markandeya Rishi also glorified Lord Shiva and Uma. So this is where we end today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So today's quiz questions. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, before we have the questions, we want to have some announcements. We will be completing the entire Srimad Bhagavatam next Wednesday, which is September 2nd. And then Thursday morning, which is Thursday morning India time, September 3 morning India time, and Wednesday evening US time. And then we will start our sessions Gita Rahasya right after the next day, from 3rd of September US time and 4th of September India time. We will start in the evening, Gita Rahasya. And in the Sri Bhagavatamrita WhatsApp group and in the Facebook, we have sent the registration form and the flyer. There's also a Facebook ad out. So we request all of you to please register, and so that we can send out special Zoom link to the first participants. We've already got about 60 registrations since yesterday. So please register quickly. And there'll be wonderful interactions over Zoom. It'll be a very interactive session, not just one way. And so it'll be recorded and streamed live on YouTube and Facebook, but these will be Zoom sessions because we want some more interaction in these sessions. So looking forward to all of your association in the Gita Rahasya sessions. So quiz for session 105 today. What is the role of the Guru? Second, who was the father of Markandeya Rishi? Third, what were the prayer beads of Markandeya Rishi made up of? Fourth, what were the 5 forms in which Markandeya Rishi worshipped the Lord, Supreme Lord? Fifth, how many manvantras passed by when Markandeya Rishi meditated and performed austerities? Sixth, who are the sons of the Cupid? Seventh, why did Krishna appear in front of the thief? Eighth, why did Markandeya Rishi forget to perform his regular worship? Ninth, how did the Lord fulfill the desire of Markandeya Rishi to see the illusory energy of the Lord? Okay, so thank you for your participation. We have one question from Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu. I have heard that Maharaj Parikshit actually left his body before the Takshak snake bit him. Is that true? Second question, if Nara is actually Arjuna, and does it mean that Arjuna expanded himself as Nara-Nārāyaṇa are still present? Also, were Nara-Nārāyaṇa also present during the times of Krishna and Arjuna during the Dwapar Yuga? So, yes, very good question. Text 12 of chapter 6 of Canto 12 answers your question, the first question. It says, Takshak flattered Kashyap by presenting him with valuable offerings and thereby stopped the sage who was expert in counteracting poison from protecting Maharaj Parikshit. Then the snake bird, who could assume any form he wished, disguised himself as a Brahmana, approached the king and bit him. So he bit him. He didn't leave his body before. According to Bhagavatam, he bit him. Your second question, if Nara is actually Arjuna, does it mean that Arjuna expanded himself? Yes, by the potency of Krishna, a living entity can expand himself. In fact, not just expanded as Nara-Nārāyaṇa, Nara in Nara-Nārāyaṇa, Arjuna, Krishna also made Arjuna expand himself in many different universes. There is Srimad Bhagavad Gita being spoken right now. Conversation between Krishna and Arjuna happening right now in some universe. At every moment. The situations may be different. It may not be part of Mahabharata. But Krishna is there, Arjuna is there, and the same instructions are being given for the benefit of the people in that universe, which is relevant to the people of that universe. And Arjuna typically should not be able to expand as a living entity. Your question is right. But by the potency of Krishna, Arjuna expands. And yes, Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi, they are eternal. They said they are even now they are worshipping. There is a Nara-Nārāyaṇa Rishi mountain near Badrikashram. We can see that. And people say that they are worshipping even then. So the beauty of expansions is that depending on the moods of the Lord and his devotees, Krishna can allow them to expand in different forms. But a living entity by their own desire cannot expand themselves. Only when Krishna needs for his purpose, he allows them. I hope that answers your question. From YouTube, Geeta Varadarajan Mataji, any mention of Markandeya Rishi's spiritual master? No, I'm not sure. I may have to get back to you, but you're right. He is the descendant of Bhrigu Muni. That's mentioned there. But we'll have to get back to you on who actually a spiritual master is. It was not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. But thank you for your question. All right. We'd like to thank Sudesh Prabhu for joining today, Swati Mataji, Geeta Varadarajan Mataji, Radhika Devi, and Rekha Mataji, Sankirtan Dham, Sun City Prabhu, Keshavi Mataji, and Venkatapati Prabhu, Vrindavani Mataji, Baba Ma, Menaka Mataji, Meena Mataji, Gandharvika Gopika Mataji, Gopi Mataji, Barsana Chitra Mataji, Rajeshwari Mataji, Anju Mataji, Reena Mataji, Shama Supriya Mataji, and Soumya Mataji. Thank you for joining on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Facebook. We'd like to thank Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu, Ranjani Mataji, Austin Prabhu, and Parmeshwari Mataji, Swati Mataji, Pushpa Priti Mataji, Narsimha Gaurahari Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining today. We look forward for your association starting Monday, and most importantly, in the Gita Rahasya sessions starting Thursday evening, India, US time. Hare Krishna.